And for more on these issues and what this might mean for those swing states, let's bring in a Republican congressman from battleground Wisconsin, Glenn Grothman. Welcome to the show, sir.
Glad to be on the show.
So it was in Wisconsin this week that Trump discussed his proposal to mandate the government and/or insurance companies pay for IVF treatments. Typically, Republicans push for smaller government. We did the math here. If this passes, it comes out to about $11 billion annually. What are your thoughts on a proposal like this?
Well, I think President Trump's heart is in the right place. We haven't seen the final proposal. I don't know if he has a final proposal. We'll have to look at the cost. We'll have to see who gets it. You know, are you going to have to be married, not married, that sort of thing. And I think when an exact proposal is out there, I'm sure Republicans in Congress will probably try to fall in line behind President Trump.
And Congressman, when it comes to reproductive rights and battleground Wisconsin, what are Wisconsin voters looking to hear from the former president?
Well, I think he's made it very clear it's a state issue. And I think by doing that, he's tried to take it off the table. J.D. Vance was in the Green Bay area this week. He responded to questions, made it very clear that he does not expect any action on the abortion issue out of Washington when President Trump is the president. So there are so many other issues out there that I think President Trump wants the public to focus on. And, you know, I know the Democrats are obsessed with abortion. You know, they want abortion right till birth and that sort of thing. But President Trump, he views it as a states' rights issue. It's not something he's going to be talking about during this campaign.
With that said, he spent the last 2 days talking about this pretty much everywhere he went.
Well, that's because I think the press was kind of pushing him to do so. But I don't think it's something that it's his choice. He'll respond to questions, but I do not think, at least on the abortion issue, he plans on doing anything on a federal level in the next 4 years.
Let's go back to your state, the great state of Wisconsin. Trump won your state in 2016. He lost it to Biden in 2020. Both times, slim margins. Now, according to a recent polling, Trump is ahead of Harris by 1%, razor thin. What does Trump need to do to widen that gap and win your state of Wisconsin, Congressman?
People don't yet know how radical Kamala Harris is, right? They have to drive home that her major issue under the Biden administration was the border, that an election for Kamala Harris is probably going to be another 8 to 10 million people crossing the southern border. They have to point out that actually the majority of the Democrat Party wanted even more spending than they got in the Inflation Reduction Act, which would have resulted in even more inflation. The calling the police racist, the anti-police rhetoric is something I think we have to remind the public of, as well as that he's using government funds, like in the Department of Education, to force schools to have to allow transgenders in the girls' bathroom, which is, you know, just kind of a radical idea. Just keep reminding people how radical Vice President Harris is. And I think if he does that, he'll continue to go up in the polls.
And with those razor-thin margins, Congressman, what challenges does Harris pose to Trump in your state?
Well, she's just got to avoid talking about the issues. That's why they like to talk about Donald Trump, the person, or talk about Arlington Cemetery. They don't want to talk about the issues other than abortion. And like I said, Donald Trump isn't going to do anything on a federal level with abortion anyway. But that's why they bring up abortion. There's no other issue. I think the public would side with Kamala Harris. And even there, if people realize that she's for a 7th or 8th month abortion, even there, I think that would hurt her. I would hope it would hurt her with the average American.
Some of the top issues facing voters in your state, the economy, border, housing affordability, health care. Early voting starts in just a couple of weeks in Wisconsin. How does Trump and Vance appeal to those early Wisconsin voters?
Oh, I think they want to go back to the economy we had under Donald Trump. I think they want to go back to a border in which you have just a few thousand people coming here every month instead of 200 or 250,000. And I think insofar as that word gets out, he's going to get more and more people to vote for him. People have to say, you know, man, you're getting Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris. You are getting another 200,000 people crossing that southern border every month. Is that really what you want, a permanent change to America?
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.